What we're here to do is to make sure we support these teachers and getting our demands across to where we want these teachers' jobs reinstated. We want cases dropped. We want the district to know that we will not stop fighting, that we will all stay united and make sure that when we fight, we win. An injury to one is an injury to all. This has been put together by SLAP, Schools and Labors Against Privatization. This is a part of the retaliation committee held by community members, teachers, along with parents. We are taking a stance. Elections showed that we can make this happen. When the people come together, that change can happen. We are the change that we need to see. And so while we flipped the board, and we have now 4 votes that we can count on for the school board to overturn the closures of schools, we're now trying to make sure that our teachers, that this state says that we have a low number of, we're trying to make sure that we keep our teachers that want to be in the classrooms, that want to teach our students, that are definitely doing all that they can to make sure our students succeed. Judy's going to give us a little background on the substitute teachers and the OEA.
Thank you, sisters and brothers and siblings. I bring you greetings from the hundreds of substitute teachers in the Oakland Unified School District. Okay, they are outraged. They are enraged. They are very upset that 2 of their members have been terminated just arbitrarily. But not only arbitrarily, because the district won't tell us the real reason. They're just beginning to, but they don't have to. Because substitute teachers in this district, even if you work for 30, 40 years as a tenured teacher, once you become a substitute teacher, you no longer have any protection whatsoever. And you are hired and fired at will. And that's what OUSD did. And they not only did that, but then they dropped hundreds of substitute teachers from the rolls, from the OUSD rolls, on the excuse that, well, they just haven't been substitute teaching enough. Well, during COVID, it was very hard for substitute teachers to be motivated to come into the classroom. I came back from retirement. I retired as a teacher, came back to the school that I retired from, and now I'm working there as a STIP substitute teacher because of the incredible need. But OUSD, all they have done is stab us in the back. So we are here today. I am the chair of the OEA Substitute Caucus in the union, and we are solidly behind this rally. We are solidly behind the movement to stop the school closures, and we are really solidly behind getting some protection for substitute teachers in this district. They want us to come in and they want us to substitute, and then they turn around and they stab us in the back by arbitrarily firing Craig Gordon and June Nelson. We want them reinstated immediately. We want no retaliation for protected union activities. So I am very pleased to bring up our first speaker today, who is June Nelson, who was a teacher, a very respected teacher at Lockwood, and then this year would have been a substitute teacher except for her termination. Her, again, a one-liner. We don't have to tell you why we're terminating you, we're just terminating you. So here we have June, and we are going to fight so that until June is reinstated.
Hey y'all. Thank you everybody for coming out to support us and to help fight against the district's retaliation. So y'all already know by now that me, Craig, and Paloma were all fired for standing up against the district's racist school closures, and a 4th teacher, Denise, has been threatened with firing over it. But this is only the latest move in a game that the district's been playing since the beginning of this year. So first, the school board voted to close 11 schools without doing any community engagement, and they targeted schools in black and brown neighborhoods like they've been doing for 20 years. They ignored parents and students literally crying to them in board meetings, begging them to keep their schools open. They ignored 2 teachers who put their lives on the line by hunger striking against the school closures and then tricked them into ending their hunger strike. They ignored all teachers when we went on strike to demand no school closures. And they ignored the entire Oakland community when we marched, rallied, and shut down board meeting after board meeting this year. So we had no choice but to escalate because these students have been abandoned by the school district. At the end of last year, a group of parents, students, teachers, and community members came together to liberate Parker K-8 from the district's closure and reopen it for the community. For 125 days, we led a peaceful sit-in at Parker with a beautiful summer program for students whose school had just been closed. We had classes, we took kids on field trips, we had free meals every day, and we helped students and families navigate the upheaval that comes with closing a neighborhood school like Parker. Some of these families didn't know how their kids were going to get to school next year and needed help enrolling them, which the district wasn't doing. So, like I said, the sit-in was peaceful until August 4th, when Josh Daniels, who's still the district's chief governance officer, authorized an unlicensed private security team to assault us and try and get us out of the building. That's right, fuck Josh Daniels. Mind you, I was at Parker that whole summer almost every day running the summer programs, to the point where Josh Daniels, when he came to inspect Parker, would be greeting me by name, and that's when I knew I was in trouble. But he knew fully well that there was usually children and parents and teachers in that building, but that didn't stop him from authorizing this team to come in there and brutalize us. These security guards handcuffed people, threw people against the wall, they slammed doors on people's hands. One of them picked me up and threw me over a table. One of them held Max down on the ground with their knee on his neck. And now we know from the audio of these 911 calls that the police told these guards numerous times not to enter the building, and that the guards were ready to arm up and go get weapons from their vehicles if they felt threatened. Luckily, that didn't happen because, like I said, we were trying to keep it peaceful, but that day really shook me because I realized that there's no limit to the violence that the district will go to enforce its closures and whatever decisions it makes. So now here we are, 3 teachers have been fired, a 4th has been threatened, and the district has even started retaliating against students whose parents were fighting the school closures. We can't let the district keep getting away with this shit. It's crazy. I would even say dystopian, the lengths that these people will go to. To enforce their agenda of closures at the expense of students. And they're not done with their retaliation either. I guarantee you that they have a list of all the people involved in Parker, and they're just going down that list, retaliating against them one by one as they get a chance. It is happening. They're trying to gaslight us into thinking it's not happening, but it is. And we have to hold the district accountable now to protect all the future teachers and students of Oakland. Right, we need to stick together so that we can stand up against the retaliation and violence for fighting for our students, or simply asking for our voices to be heard. We might be a small group right now, but we're growing. And the most important thing is that we're here, and we're gonna continue to be here for the next person who gets retaliated against, or the next time the district tries to screw over our students. So, thank you all again for coming out today. If you're trying to get more like involved in the organizing, we really need help trying to get this movement like more up and running. We meet every Wednesday, so if you're interested, come talk to me or one of the other organizers, and we can tap you in. Because we need community and we need each other. Thank you.
All right, so coming up next, we have a parent that is out of Brookfield community. Brother Tut helped lead some of the first ULP strikes ever inside Walmart stores. As a lead organized with our Walmart campaign, face retaliation and firing for doing so. Generations of his family before and after him have attended Brookfield. So this is about generations on generations of families that have been attending these schools that have been targeted for closure. So I want to bring up Brother Tut, and he's representing his family who is not here with him today, but definitely the Brookfield community.
We ain't gonna let that happen. Look, I'm here representing my children, my family, and my community. Okay, I come from Brookfield Village, like a lot of us. Some people may be new to Oakland, but hey, we love Oakland just as much as y'all do. Maybe a little bit more, because I grew up here. But we all in the same boat, we all on the same landmass. Look, what they trying to do is criminal, okay? What they're trying to do is confuse us of the facts. Some facts that you may need to know. Brookfield is a small village right there next to the gas station, next to the AA exit, around the corner from the Coliseum. There's generational families there, elders, people that came from Louisiana came there for a better life, better education. My grandmother had my mother. My mother had me and 9 other siblings. My brothers and sisters had children. They had children. There's 5 generations of Brookfieldians that's there. And guess what? Every one of those people went through Brookfield Elementary, right? Okay, so what is Brookfield Elementary? What is a school to the community? Okay, it's not just a babysitting place. It's a place of refuge for education. It's a place of refuge for creativity. It's a place where we cultivate the leaders of that community for the next generation. So what they're trying to say is that they're trying to privatize that institution that generates leadership and people who cultivate that community. They want to extract them. Listen, I just got off a call today. They want my children to hop on a bus 30 miles away. What is that going to do to the community? My children, my son, beautiful Kingdom, who's in the 1st grade, he's going to grow up with no attachment to his neighbors. He's not going to walk around and see the dirt and the filth on the street. He's not going to have this compassion for his own community because he's bused in the morning to another community. My daughter, who's in the 4th grade, she's not going to know how to beautify. She's not going to walk and see the elders there. She's not going to have an attachment to the community because she's removed from the community. No, not what they're trying to do. They're not trying to close schools. They're trying to gentrify our children and make them not care about the communities that they're born into. It's bigger than that, but they're trying to confuse the facts. Okay, listen here. They're pushing closures. We don't need closures. We need creativity. Okay? We don't need criminals telling us what to do. We need more choices. In this time, we do not need to be conservative. We need to be innovative. We need to be a part of the solution. Okay? So thank you everybody who's here because look, it's not about me and you. It's about these children and the future we're going to have when we are elders. Okay? And then our children's children. It starts and stops right here. So big love. Let's give a round of applause for the teachers and the substitute teachers. They are hugely underpaid. Put your hands on it. You got children. But you know how hard it is to deal with kids all day. They deserve so much love and respect. Okay? And shout out to the cultivators, the people down here in attendance that support. Shout out to Union, because without union jobs, parents couldn't be able to take care of their families. Okay? And big shout out to Oakland. A lot of people say a lot of things about Oakland, but it's really a reflection of us. We must do better. And we're showing our kids how to do something better today. So thank everybody that's going to speak today. We're going to keep on moving. All right, much love to y'all. And we need creativity, not closures. Let's go. Education, not retaliation. 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 Education, not retaliation.
That's right. We got to be fired up. When we in this fight, he said some key things. This is not about adults. This is about our children. This is about the next generation that's coming behind us. So if we don't lay this foundation right, for them to see that we'll fight for them until they can fight for themselves, then we ain't doing it right. We're not doing it right. This next little song that we got coming up, Craig made this song. And this was a special one for Josh Daniels. And let me give you a little background on Josh Daniels. Josh Daniels this position that he has was made up by somebody who ran scared from the district. Shanti Gonzalez, who was the district rep for District 6 in East Oakland, where we had closures going on. So she's ran all the way to Humboldt County. So what we have here is Josh Daniels, who was warned. The OUSD had got a letter from the Berkeley NAACP to say that this man was a racist and that he put threats and attacks on teachers. So as we had got this letter, OUSD has shown us continuously that they cannot manage funding, that they cannot retain teachers because they would choose to fire them instead of keeping them. They showed that they will put funding in pockets like this for rent instead of in our schools that need to be fully funded. They showed us that they do not care about safety. Why wasn't it when we had a shooting at one of our schools that it wasn't all over the news as a mass shooting? They are not able to run a district where they are not in control of the safety and the care of our children. So Craig is going to come up and give us this famous song for Josh Daniels.
Let's go. Okay, so it's on the back side. You got it here. We wish you would fire Daniels. It's the tune of We Wish You a Merry Christmas. We wish you would fire Daniels. We wish you would fire Daniels. We wish you would fire Daniels. We don't want him here. Resources we need in schools far and near. We don't want Josh Daniels, and we must make that clear. Just fund schools, just fund schools and keep them open. Just fund schools and keep them open. Just fund schools and keep them open. And we'll give a cheer. From UC to Oakland, the workers insist. Stop treating us like garbage or we will resist. We wish you would fire Daniels. We wish you would fire Daniels. Wish you would fire Daniels. We don't want him here. That's right.
And fire the rest of them too. I mean, this building I can't say it's been open through COVID because no one was working there. And I think what I heard is to the tune of $250,000 a month is what the rent for OUSD cost. Wow. It is now being operated at a very skeletal level. Most people are still working at home, and I don't want, that's fine. It's great if people can work at home. Teachers certainly can't, but all that I just want to say is that this building, when they say they don't have any money, think about this building. Think about what that money could have paid in terms of our education. Because for those of us now in the schools, we know that all that money that was floating around during COVID, it's gone away. We can't even get supplies in the schools right now. We can't get field trips. There's lots of shortages because our community is not prioritized. Those of us, particularly in the flatlands in East Oakland and West Oakland, Far East, Near East, we don't have any money. But I did just want to clarify one thing. One of my colleagues, Bill Balderson, one of my comrades, reminded me, there is something called the State Ed Code. And in the State Ed Code is the sentence that substitute teachers can be hired and fired at will. And it's certainly something that we have to take care of down the road. But OUSD did not need to use that clause. They did not need to go after teachers who are union activists, who are community activists, who are fighting. They're fighting to keep one of the few black schools open in Oakland. When Parker closed, we lost an historically black school. 2 years before that, they closed Roots International Academy, another historically black school, right? So we have to stop this. There is absolutely no reason why any schools should be closed in Oakland. Okay, so I am very honored to bring up the next speaker, Walter Riley. You may know him as a famed civil rights attorney. He has brought a lawsuit against OUSD in the violent assault on community members at Parker on August 4th, which you've already heard a little bit about. But I will tell you, to me, Walter Riley is a comrade that I have run in the streets with. And I remember the days when Oscar Grant was murdered and we were out here and Walter Riley was out there. And it was definitely a scary time. But we were out there. Walter Riley is courageous, will always come down on the I don't want to say right, I want to say on the left side of what's going on in the world. Thank you. Here's Walter.
Thank you for that, comrade. I don't have a lot to say. I'm here to offer support and solidarity with the struggle against the firing, dismissal of the teachers. And I want to make it clear that we understand, we know. Okay, is that better? Better. Thank you. I'm here to show solidarity with the struggle to support the teachers who were dismissed, fired, retaliated against because they were engaged in political struggle. Now, I agree with Judy that what they say is that a teacher can be fired, and that is true in California. You can be fired from any job for no cause at all. But this is not a case of them being terminated for no cause. They're being terminated because they were engaged in political activity. And if we use this Constitution, if we use these laws, we have to at least use that aspect of the law, that this retaliation is unlawful. And somehow or another, being engaged in building this movement has to take that into account. My whole life has been one of engaged in struggle, understanding that we live in economic divided society. There's those folks who have power and economic privilege, and they exert that for status, they exert it for their own comfort, they exert it to exploit, and in many cases they just enjoy creating havoc for people at the lower end of the economic spectrum. They use racism, they use identity politics, they use nationalism, they use class consciousness in order to benefit their particular class position. That's what's happening in Oakland. We've already said it, others have said it, that this attempt to gentrify Oakland, that is to bring in a different group of folks in a different economic status that will not leave room for the people who live in Oakland presently. For the people who work at minimal jobs, minimal paying jobs, for the people who don't have enough jobs, for the families that are struggling economically, and for those people with moderate incomes that are living in Oakland, have been here forever, they're not going to have room for them. Because Oakland becoming a bedroom city for San Francisco, the elite, is becoming a place where privatizers can make tremendous amounts of money. They can make money in the short term. That's the nature of capitalism. They'll make money in the short term by building high rises, by building expensive residential places, by moving people out of West Oakland and East Oakland. In order to do that, they have to attack our schools, our educational system. We know that. We know that's part of what's happening, because when schools are closed in black and brown communities, those communities then experience a greater amount of gentrification and a downward push on the economic and social conditions of the working people who live in those communities. We have to stop that. And in order to do that, this is part of that movement. I am engaged in litigating against the Oakland Unified School District for their attack on the people on August 4th. That litigation will go on. We will sue and we'll ask for damages and we'll ask for some changes. Litigation is not going to change the world we live in. What we have seen in the most recent period is that progressive movements are developing and gaining more power. San Francisco got elected a whole right-wing or anti-progressive board members, city council members, and a mayor. They are engaged in building a movement against progressives. In Oakland, we have discussed building a progressive movement. Now, that is not necessarily the revolutionary movement that all of us want.
Said he did.
Yeah, so we have, before this next song called Oakland, the Red-Nosed District, and I'm not going to tell you what the tune is. I just want to mention one thing that I think it didn't get mentioned yet, but it's, you know, there is one other thing going on, and there's this investigation. Well, it's actually the Department of, the Attorney General's Office of California is doing what they're calling fact-finding now into the racist school closures of this district. Now, we're not sure if they're going to actually take it seriously and do an investigation. But that's a good thing if it's starting to do that. But we should have no illusions at all that the Democratic-run Department of Attorney General's office and Rob Bonta is our friend, right? When we have a president who is breaking the railway workers' strike right now or stopping them from striking. We had a governor, a Democratic governor, who had to be badgered to even sign some minimal rights for farm workers recently. So let's just remember, that we're going to fight them and push them to investigate, but we know which side we are on. Okay, and they
unanimously to stand in solidarity with the workers who were affected.
Good.
And one of the things that we want to prioritize, and I know it seems like it's a process thing, but right now in California, there are a couple classes of workers in the education system who do not have due process. It's our teacher substitutes and our career educational teachers. They do not have a right to due process. And this is a clear case where if folks had right to due processes, they would have their day in court where they would be able to hear out and to defend that. And so it's one of our fundamental callings as a union is to defend due process. And so our union stands really strongly behind ensuring that our members have due process and that folks are not retaliated against actions that are union actions. And so we are looking forward to continue to work with the affected members through our legal means that we have and through other actions that come about. But one of our big demands coming out of bargaining this year is going to be due process for some of our members. And it's also a piece of legislation that we have supported recently because our members, all workers have a right to due process. And so we stand here in solidarity with that calling and that we're going to do what we can to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
That's it. Come on now. Come on now.
That's right. We're going to make sure we hold people accountable. We're going to make sure that we stay fighting and standing in solidarity with those who need us to be right there with them. At this time, like we said, that we are here gathered today, this is a response to teachers, substitutes, regular teachers, and other administrators being fired in retaliation of standing 125 days in liberation with the Park of Liberation. And so as we stay here today, we have union members, teachers, parents, community members. We are trying to form something here. SLAP is Schools and Labors Against Privatization. That came together because we were tired of members, executive members, that we pay dues to, not fighting for us. And so we needed to create a space so that folks can be able to be heard. And we do actions build out of that, making sure we listen to the working class people that make sure that this city stays running. Again, we are here to fight for our children and our teachers until that we get justice. There is no way that we can sit around and let constituents sit around and not do what's right. They need to right the wrongs that have been done. We have our next speaker coming up. This is Mr. Brookfield here, I call him, because he served a couple of generations. Right now, he's teaching children of the children who he taught. So right now, we have Brother Haskell coming up.
Hey there, everybody. Thanks for coming out. My name's Corin Haskell. I've been a teacher at Brookfield Elementary for 26 years now. So I'm just here to kind of speak on this whole situation with the closures. Brookfield has actually been under attack for almost like 10 years. I've watched the school dwindle from like a role model school to what it is right now. And it's been really frustrating to see because it feels like the people we're trying to work for are working against us in some ways. But hopefully with this new election, we got brighter things coming and we're not going to be closing the school and keeping it open. I'm also here to talk about the teachers that kind of speak up for these schools that have been under the gun too. And oftentimes when we're passionate about these schools and we speak up for them and don't want them to close, we're often labeled as problematic or difficult individuals or difficult teachers, which isn't really fair because we're really just speaking up for the communities that we help build and create and work in every day. And there's a lot of time a disconnect between the people who make the decisions and the people who are there every day. So we're not difficult teachers, we're just passionate teachers, especially about the communities that we help build. And we just are crying out to be listened to, really. That's usually what this is. When, just like students who act unruly, it's usually because they are needy and they need attention and they need something. So when teachers are, being difficult, as they've labeled us, it's because we want to be heard and we're sticking up for something that we believe in. So Oakland talks about wanting to keep good teachers here in Oakland public schools, and it's not about the money, it's about respect. Most teachers will tell you it's not. We don't get in this for the money, we get in this for the children and trying to do good. And we have a lot of good ideas, we want to be listened to, we want to have input in the classroom. And that, to me, is the biggest factor in keeping teachers here, is listening to us, giving us that respect, giving us that input, and not always a kind of a top-down, kind of telling us how to teach sort of thing. So I know there's other speakers here. I don't want to take up too much time. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about what's happened at Brookfield. So we used to be a school, had 800 kids about 10 years ago. And slowly, charter schools have popped up all around our neighborhood and kind of take the kids that they want from the school. Because they can choose, right? They choose the kids they want to go there. We take in everybody at our school. We definitely have a very high needs population, I guess for lack of a better term. We take in language learners or kids who have gotten kicked out of other schools, who need extra attention, special needs. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are immigrants. They just came here from other countries. So it's a very diverse population, and we really have a setup where we address all of those needs. A lot of the charter schools do not do that. They handpick the kids they want to go there so they can pad their data, and they really treat kids more like bar graphs and tools of data rather than like souls. And that's really what the Brookfield School specifically, which is what I'm speaking for, really has kept me there for 26 years. It's a real community school. It not only teaches kids, it provides resources for the whole community, healthcare, mental health, physical health care, legal services, immigration services, access to books, the library, medical, all kinds of stuff. We have a garden there, so we teach kids how to grow their own food, how to harvest it, feed some of them. We used to have adult language classes there, teaching English and vice versa, teaching Spanish. So it was a cross-cultural thing where people were learning from each other. It was actually really good to see. We had parenting classes there too. There was dad classes and all kind of stuff we had going on, and it's just slowly been dwindled down as the charter schools pull all the kids out and our resources get sucked up. Despite all that, we still perform really well. Brookfield was in the top 5 schools according to the literacy improvement last year, and all of OUSD. We were the top 5 schools. We were the only school in the flatlands. The other 4 were hill schools with tremendous PTA support and high populations and lots of resources. And it's funny that the one flatland school that made that list is set for closure every year rather than supported and dumped resources in. And they continue to, attack the schools that are successful. So that's a little bit about what's going on in Brookfield. But like I said, we see some light at the end of the tunnel here with this school board election. Hopefully in January when they get sworn in, we can get this off our neck and focus on rebuilding the school. Me and Brother Tut here and a couple other parents are working with a school plan so that when we do get over this bump, we can now come with what we want the school to look like moving forward and how we can make it attractive to pull students back into the school so we can build up the population again. So